Some lady in the comments section told me I'm not God. How dare her? The nerve! Who does she think she is? Tell me I'm not God. As you can see, I'm kind of playing with this and having a little fun with it. But your first instinct and your first reaction is, you're not God, Jeff. And that's not arrogant of her to say. That's just true. You're not. I might convince you of otherwise by the end of this video. And it exemplifies and gives me a perfect opportunity to expand on the video where she said I'm not God. It was the one where I was walking in the forest telling you that your experience is defined by your perception of reality, and your perception of reality is defined by your experience. And what she's doing, and this is what they call projecting. She's telling me that I'm not God because she doesn't feel like she could be God. And we all do this. If I haven't seen a Sasquatch and a UFO, then neither have you. If I don't have a microchip in my head or know anybody that has one, then you're just looking for attention and maybe it's a piece of cartilage behind your ear, but you don't really have a microchip in your head. We project onto others in the world our own experiences and superimpose our worldview onto the world at large and assume the only thing anyone else has ever experienced is within 5 or 10% of what I've experienced. If I've never seen a Sasquatch, neither have you, and they don't exist. We project onto others our own life experiences and our own worldview. Our worldview is created from our own personal first-hand experience. So our own worldview is a certain limited range of perception. And when someone else tells me that they've had an experience outside of my range of perception, I say, no, you haven't. Because I've never experienced anything like that, so neither have you. Because I don't feel like I'm God, neither are you. You're not God, you know. You're projecting onto me what you feel about yourself. You feel like you're not God, and so you tell me that I'm not God. But if you had some experiences that led you to question whether or not maybe you are God, you wouldn't be so quick to tell me that I'm not God. Insert here the song, Jason Mraz, Look for the Good. Look for the good in everyone. Everyone is major. Everyone is God. Everyone is love and light and vibration. And I can hear you already, all the Christians going, that's that new age stuff. Satanic Luciferian telling you can be like God and that everyone's God. That was the satanic lie. The false light of Lucifer telling you that you can be like God. The Mormons and their law of eternal progression say, as man is, God once was, and as God is, man may become. That's not only saying that you may become like God, that's saying that God was once like a man, like a human. As man currently is, God once was. And as God currently is, man may become. Oh, well, they're satanic, Luciferian, evil, indoctrinated. They fell for the satanic lie. And if you believe that you could be anything like God, then you're falling for the lie too. Isn't that a limited perception that they lock you in to say, if you ever think you could possibly be anything like God, then you're evil, and that's the devil. That's only devils think like that. Satanic, Luciferian, this guy's demon-possessed. So we got to define what God is. But a while back, technology has brought us to the point where we can do a lot of things that were once only in the realm of God. Talking on the phone and the internet. If this was a live stream and 100 people were hearing me simultaneously around the world, 100 years ago, only God could do that. These days they have V2K technology, voice to skull, or they call it the voice of God. Because it speaks directly into your brain on the brain waves, on the wavelength and the frequencies of your brain waves. Infrasound. That can only be heard in a certain area. That's different than V2K technology. A lot of things we can do now, due to technological advancements, were once only done by God. That was God-like technology. And, like the saying goes, highly advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic from lesser advanced technological societies, or smaller minds with a smaller aperture can't distinguish between magic and God or technology. And I would say don't, for me, like my friend Laura, I respect her a lot. She made JeffSnyder2.com. But anyway, she said, I don't think God uses spaceships. Humans use spaceships. God works through humans. Ergo, God made the human made the spaceship. Why do you think God doesn't use spaceships? And in the book of Ether, one thing that they were talking about in church the other day that got my attention, there's this part in the book of Ether. It's a Mormon, one of the books of Mormon books, where two brothers go up on a mountain with some stones, and the finger of God touches these stones and makes them glow. And one of the brothers faints and he falls flat on the ground. And then he gets back up and they're like, what the hell's wrong with you? He's like, I didn't think God had a flesh and bone body. Yeah, neither do all these good Christians. And as I've said before, they believe in an ethereal, nebulous, vaporous, incorporeal concept of God. And as soon as God takes a real shape, form, and definition, they say, that's not God. That's not the real God. Because me and my good Christians, we believe in this fucking gas cloud concept of a God. And as soon as God actually takes shape, form, and definition, that's not the real God. Maybe that's a demigod. I only worship the Most High God. That's like a guy that works at Walmart saying, I demand to talk to Sam Walton, and I don't talk to anyone but Sam Walton. There's a lot of gatekeepers and layers between you and Sam Walton. And there's a reason for it. No one gets to the Father but through the Son. There's all these gatekeepers and layers and levels of authority and filtration that you must go through before you get a meeting with the Most High God. All those other gods? No, I'm above them. I don't even talk to them. They're like evil, satanic, Luciferian, fallen angels. I only talk to the Most High God. And that God don't have a body or use technology or spaceships. He's a vaporous, ethereal, nebulous, incorporeal concept in your mind. And as soon as he starts to take shape, form, and definition, that's not the real God. I am, and so are you, is one of the titles of my previous videos. Join us, witches. Join this Antichrist, is something I've said before. Jeffrey Christ, pleased to meet you, is something I've said before. The truth, the way, and the light, I am, and so are you, were the titles of 4 of my videos. During the time when I was fully connected and had God speaking through me firsthand to you, and I was even referring to myself in a third person. Jeff has gone to great lengths and put himself at great inconvenience to bring you these messages, and he will be greatly rewarded. Referring to myself in a third person. And in that time, on that day here, I'm going to show you some experiences I've had that might make you question, if you had them, whether or not you're God. And if you could question whether or not you were God, you wouldn't be so quick to tell me I'm not God. The only reason you tell me I'm not God is because you're damn sure that you're not God. First, I'll just keep going with this. And this is all wrapping back around to that original concept of your experience will always be within proximity of your perception of reality. And your perception of reality will always be pretty close to your own personal first-hand experience. And you project that onto the world and tell me I'm not God because you've never had any experiences that make you think you might be God. Now let's define what godlike is, because we've already got godlike technologies. Genetic modification and reproduction and cloning. But if I was to manifest instantly an experience in reality through my mind, through my thoughts and will and intention, would that not be God? What could be more godlike than that, right? You'd say, well, yeah, God can just manifest reality. He doesn't need a spaceship because he can just imagine himself from here to there and teleport himself. And he doesn't even need a body. He just thinks himself into existence, and it's a vaporous, ethereal, nebulous, incorporeal, without a body concept of a God that most people pretend to believe in but don't really. And as soon as you start to show them God with shape, form, and definition, they say, oh, no, that's not the real God. Me and my Christian buddies, me and my good Christian buddies down here, we believe in the real God that has no shape, form, or definition. But back to what I was saying about, let's define God. God-like, be like God. What does that mean? On my way out to Missouri, I said, yeah, I got a God complex, and so would you. The only reason you don't, or I wouldn't, is if I had an inferiority complex and thought I wasn't worthy of being one of the chosen ones. And I met another one of the chosen ones on my way out to Missouri. He was in a car right next to mine with everything in his car loaded to the ground, and we talked for a minute. And I said, yep, looks like you're on the same trip as me, brother. Where you going? He's like, I said, yep, you're on the same trip as me, brother. Where are you going? He says, you got a specific location yet? I said, no, but I'm going. We received the calling and we are going. We made it, brother. He's like, I don't think we made it just yet. I said, I think we have. Told him I'm going to the Kansas City, Missouri border, where there's a temple and some underground food storage facilities that I've described with tire-popping spikes and high-level security and shit like that. I didn't tell him all that. He's like, I'm not even Mormon. I said, neither am I. But we received the calling and we're going because we're the new chosen ones. The old chosen ones, we are the wild olive branches that are getting I didn't tell him all this. We're the wild olive branches that are getting grafted into the tree. And in that part of the Bible, it says, now you remember how quick I broke them off. The ones that thought that they were God's chosen people, so they went astray, and I broke their asses off. And I'm grafting some new wild branches into the tree. You remember how quickly I broke them off. So if you go astray, that's how quickly I will break you off too. But if you just keep doing what you're doing, the things that got you living the life in accordance with the principles that you have been, which is what got you grafted into the tree and becoming one of God's chosen people, you'll be fine. But it'll probably be pretty easy to go astray once you start receiving powers and privileges and authorities and think, oh, well, God must really want me to do all this other stuff because, I'll read you that verse of the Bible that I got from that lady in Missouri. But let's talk about God in function, not form, in principle, not personality, in ideal, not idol. If I was to manifest experiences through my mind and my thought and my intention, would that not be God? Like? What is more God-like than that? Right? Because even if we're going to give other definitions, like being able to speak and have millions of people hear you around the world simultaneously, that was something only God could do 100 years ago. Now, you can do it with your cell phone. You can do it on the live streams. Genetic modification, cloning, etc. That was only the technology of God. Only God could do that kind of stuff 100 years ago. But let's go clear to the end of manifestation. Creating experiences through your own thoughts and intentions, which is what Greg Braden said would happen in these days when the magnetic field reaches zero. He described the magnetic field as the sticky stuff that creates the lag time between your thought and the intention and the manifestation of the experience. And that we would start to manifest much more quickly once that magnetic field disappears. So if you started to manifest reality, experiences in your world through your thoughts and your intentions, wouldn't that make you godlike? What could be more godlike? If we started doing that, then we definitely have to redefine God, which we already have to do because we can already do a lot of things that were previously only things that God could do. So if you can start manifesting experiences in your reality, which we all do, it starts as a thought and an intention, and then there's a lag time between the thought and the intention and the experience within this reality. The manifestation, they call it in the New Age movement. And as that lag time begins to shorten, if I could do it instantly and manifest experiences in accordance with my own thoughts and intentions instantly, then that would be Godhood. At what lag time is it not godlike? Because right now, you can speak and instantly be heard by millions of people around the world, and that was previously only God could do that. But sometimes there's a delay. Sometimes there's a 2 or 3 second delay between me speaking and millions of people hearing me simultaneously all around the world. Does that 2 or 3 second delay not make it godlike? What about manifesting experiences within reality? How long of a delay or a lag time does it make it? Well, no, that's not godlike, because we already manifest experiences within this reality based on our thoughts and intentions, and there's a lag time between the two. I am going to show you some experiences that I've had that have to make you start to question. The easiest, most simple explanation for all of this is that I am manifesting it. Otherwise, you really got to do some mental gymnastics. Let's start with the sun tunnel alone, which got my page wiped out. I took that video driving along in my car up in Park City. There was like bumper to bumper traffic, 8 a.m. when all the people are taking their kids to school and heading up to the ski slopes. And I hang my camera out the window for 19 seconds. Was the whole video. I hung my camera out the window, took some video, and then thought, never mind. The car in front of me started to move, so I hit the stop button and went on. Later on, when I saw a still frame that I had fired off because it was leaning on the edge of the car, I was like, what are those rings around the sun? I was about to wipe out my gallery so I'd make room for new video. And it's only because I saw, what are those rings around the sun in that still frame that it fired off while it was taking the video. And so I watched that 19-second video. If I hadn't have seen the still frame, I wouldn't even have watched the 19-second video. I would have erased it. It was 19 seconds of cloud. Within that 19-second window, that 6-second window of the sun opening up and 4 craft transiting through it was completely encapsulated. It's not like that 6 seconds was cut off at the first or at the last of that 19-second window. It was right here in the middle. There was a few seconds before, and then the sun started going bzzz with all these rings, concentric rings moving inward for a full 6 seconds. 1 1000, 2 1000, 3 1000, 4 1000, 5 1000, 6 1000, and then it stopped, and then there was a few seconds of video still after. So that 19-second video completely encapsulated. It's not like I started recording and the sun tunnel was already open. And it's not like at the end of the video, the sun tunnel was still open and it just stopped recording. No. The sun tunnel was only open for 6 seconds total, and I know this because I filmed video before and after. So the opening only lasted for 6 seconds. I know it wasn't opening before I started recording, and I know it wasn't opening after I hit stop, because that 6-second window was right in the middle of that 19 seconds. This one alone is some super high coincidence, because you want the coincidence, random. Some people, you get lucky sometime. I got a broken clock that's right twice a day. Sometimes some people accidentally catch a video of the sun tunnel opening. Just the fact that it was a 6-second experience, and I captured the whole thing randomly on a 19-second video that I hung out the car door, is a huge coincidence. The fact that it was of the sun tunnel opening and 4 craft transiting through it, we didn't even think that existed. Not only do we now know it exists, the fact that I caught the whole 6-second window in that 19 seconds means that I know that thing opens for 6 seconds. You wouldn't know plasma fire other than Mia's new pair of glasses and Brian Austin Lambert 33 and J Dreamer Z. If it weren't for all of this. So you guys take for granted all of this because it's all around you and you know it now. But if it weren't for me, you would know Mia's new pair of glasses, Brian Austin Lambert, and J Dreamer Z, all of whom deal in hypotheticals about a plasma apocalypse that once occurred and may once again occur soon. And maybe even some signs of the times. But because you've seen this for 3 years running, you feel like you've got a pretty good grip on what the plasma apocalypse is. But if it weren't for this one guy who also did that sun tunnel, I'm building a case here. That the best way and the easiest way to explain all of this is that I'm manifesting it. The sun tunnel, the 4 craft that go through it. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 craft, and the fact that the sun tunnel opened in the first place. The 6 seconds being within that 19-second window, that's another coincidence. We're already adding up to, it can't be just random coincidence. It has to be orchestrated and coordinated by some sort of intelligence. Whether it's my own intelligence manifesting it, or God, and I'm one of God's chosen people. We're narrowing it down here. Add to that the airborne aircraft carrier with all the triangles part 2 by 2 by 2 that I just took a screenshot out of this guy KC Kid. By the way, I went to his house in Missouri, Kansas City, Missouri, and he told me get away. First he invited me there, said I cleaned out some space in the garage. By the time I was in his driveway, out of gas and out of money, he sent me a text, I still have it on my phone, that said you need to leave and get your car out of my driveway and don't ever come back. That guy who I went to his house made his own little Santilli telescope, his own homemade apparatus, hung it out his car door window. And I've shown you the video. It will be linked in the description. Where he's just filming with one hand and wobbling it around with the other. And I pause it and I take a screenshot and I zoom in and I run the contrast. Then I take a screenshot of that, grab that other screenshot, zoom in further, do more contrast and show you. There is an airborne aircraft carrier, a floating fortress, a city in the sky. By the way, I saw 7 of those triangular craft go over my head last night. First time I've ever seen 7 of them. Other than that, I saw 1 quite a few years ago. Last night, I saw 7. They were all perfectly silent. They all had bizarre flashing light patterns, but the very first one in the line of 7 had a different light pattern than all the rest, and maybe it was lower altitude. Because between the lights that were around the edge of the triangular craft, I could see the surface material of the triangular craft, telling me it's not just 2 wings here and a nose cone out here that kind of form a triangle. It is a solid surface. So we have the sun tunnel and everything that goes with it. The 4 craft that are transiting through it. The fact that I caught that whole 6 seconds within a random 19-second hanging out my window. Sun tunnel, 4 craft, and the 6 seconds being within the 19-second window. We're already getting up to beyond coincidence. Now we have the airborne aircraft carrier that I pulled from KC Kid's homemade Santilli telescope, and then I ended up being at his house. Because as I'm about to go on my trip, he sends me, he leaves a comment, says if you're ever in the Kansas City area, stop by. I wasn't a truck driver at the time, so he wasn't meaning like if you're ever running a load through Kansas City. I was in Utah. He never expected me to take him up on the offer, and when I did, he got cold feet and said, no, you gotta get out of here, go away. I've got someone wanting to come to my house right now. I understand where KC Kid was coming from. I already told him, you stand off, you stand your own ground. I might need to come visit you. I might not be here much longer. But right now we're adding up how me manifesting reality is one of the simplest explanations that you could come up with to account for all of these phenomena that one guy has produced in such a short time. Either God is directly showing me these things and I'm one of God's chosen people, or I am manifesting, which makes me a lot like God. Either way, it is only because she has not had any such experience and does not consider herself to be godlike or chosen by God that she is so quick to tell me that I am not God. Just as easily people would say, oh, you're not one of God's chosen. What do you got, a God complex? What do you got, a Messiah complex? I already said that on the way out to Missouri. Yeah, I got a God complex. The only reason I don't Only reason I wouldn't have a God complex is if I had an inferiority complex. Because with all this stuff, the Sun Tunnel, the airborne aircraft carrier, the 16 stationary black dot craft in Pleasant Grove that are in that 1/42nd window at the beginning of that video, and later on, I've recently done another recap of that same video where you can see those little black dots cruising around in the clouds. So 16 stationary ones and 4 or 5 other moving ones in the background of that same video, because I do a 40-second window here, and then I go over here and I take some more video. Look at the dragons. There's the eye, there's the head, there's the tail, there's the fins. Then I stop the video and take another minute or two over here. Look at those dragons, look at all the dragons. And in there you can see the little black dot craft cruising through the clouds. You really got to do some mental gymnastics to try and explain this all away without some sort of divine providence giving me these things, or me manifesting them, which means makes me basically godlike. So when I said that you only have experiences that are pretty close to your range of perception, and your range of perception is always pretty close to your own personal first-hand experiences, this is a good example of what that means. That means, to the girl who said, "You're not God, you know," she only projects that onto me because she herself feels like that she's not God, and so she projects onto me that you're not God. By the way, who does that lady think she is? This is what I started out with. How dare her? Who does she think she is? If she's telling me that I'm not God, she's asserting herself to be some greater authority on the subject matter to be able to determine who's God and who's not. Ergo, maybe she does believe that she's God and the authority on the subject matter to declare who is and who is not God. She has elevated herself to a status of an authority on the subject matter to talk down to me and tell me that I'm not God. Who the fuck does she think she is? Don't think that you're not, lady. You might be. But what I'm saying is the arrogance and the hubris embedded right within that statement to tell someone else they're not God means that you think you know who is and who isn't God, and that you just have to remind them that they're not. That's a lot like Daniel saying, don't be as sure of yourself as you are, and don't say those things with such conviction as you do. Question yourself and don't be so sure of yourself. It's the same statement. You're not God, you know. Someone else said this guy's got a Messiah complex. The Sun Tunnel. The airborne aircraft carrier taken from his Santilli telescope, showing the triangles 2 by 2 by 2 and at the end of runways. So the Sun Tunnel and the 4 craft that go through it, along with the window of time that got the whole 6 seconds within that random 19-second window. So we got Sun Tunnel, airborne aircraft carrier, floating black dot craft in Pleasant Grove, both the 16 stationary ones and the ones that are moving in the background, floating black dot craft behind Mr. MB3 in the Woodbury fire, where he's going, look, right there behind me, you see it? You see it? What, the giant cloud of smoke? Of course we see it. Here, let me invert it and throw it into inverted mode for you. What, so we can see that giant cloud of smoke behind it? He's not showing you the cloud of smoke. He's trying to get you to see the craft. Joe Imbriano happened to catch one and he didn't even know it, and I spotted it and ran the contrast, and that's over a military base in California. So you would have to, maybe you could chalk it up and say, oh yeah, it's all beamed in voice to skull, voice of God technology coming in through that microchip in your head. What about the Sun Tunnel? What about the moon turning 90 degrees in the sky along with the 3 Kings of Orion's belt? Those two things combine to dislodge the whole heliocentric model of the universe. So you got all these flat earthers, globe earthers, how come none of them are talking about this? They're all giving you hypotheticals and theories. None of them are saying, look, you can tell we're not on a spinning ball because the moon, as it goes over, turns 90 degrees, and so do the stars as they go over the 3 Kings of Orion's belt, rise vertical and set horizontally Those two things alone. If it was just the moon, you might be able to say, well, the moon itself, that's what's wobbling. The moon's wobbling as it goes over. The fact that the moon and the three kings of Orion's belt do the same 90-degree turn in the same clockwise rotation means it's us. And that's what Mr. MB333 said when he made a video titled, "Has the moon really turned 90 degrees?" He said, well, like he does in his nonchalant way, and then leads around to, it's always changing light patterns and moving in the sky, so it could just be your perspective. That is proven. It is just your perspective, because the three kings of Orion's belt do the same 90-degree turn. That means it's us that's actually doing the 90-degree turn every day, not the moon and the stars, but us. It's from our perspective that we are seeing this 90-degree turn every day. The same guy that runs down this list of phenomenon that I've shown you dislodged the entire heliocentric model of the solar system. Am I manifesting it, or is God giving it directly to me? There's not many other options. And then you might say, well, it's just godlike technology. Godlike technology that's showing me that the moon going over is turning 90 degrees? Oh yeah, they're just projecting it. Project Bluebeam. That's a sky screen up there, and those aren't the real stars. Or the real moon, they're just projecting it with holograms. If it's Project Bluebeam, how come I'm the only one being able to show you this? Oh, that's the Great Deception. No, that's the narrow path. The wide open path that leads to destruction is what all these other people are on. Numerically, proportionately, the few people that are on this path size up with the narrow path that leads to salvation, not the Great Deception. What, the 100 people that watch this video are the Great Deception? And those multiple millions of Christians that are on the other path, they're on the narrow path? Tell me I'm not God. Who does she think she is? Everyone is major. Everyone is God. Everyone is love and light and vibration. Sun Tunnel, airborne aircraft carrier, floating black dot craft in Pleasant Grove and in the Woodbury Fire and in Joe Imbriano's video. Plasma fires, portal in the cathedral, dislodging the heliocentric model of the universe with the moon and the three kings of Orion's belt. And some of my other videos show screenshots where I've ran the contrast and the zoom and show what appear to be electronics and mechanics in the sun and the moon. And I've shown other mechanical objects that appear in videos that I've taken right out my front door. Videos of the vultures that were flying down there in the parking lot. All these things add up to either I'm manifesting it or given this stuff directly by a higher power. You can too, but only once you free your mind, and the only way to do that is through experience. Until then, you'll project your narrow aperture worldview onto everyone else, because I haven't seen Sasquatch, neither of you, because I don't feel like I'm God. You're not God, You'll never be God unless you open your mind. Jeffrey Christ, pleased to meet you.